Hi guys, this is R.A. Sweeney here to talk to you about another passage from the book Praying with the Book of Praises as part of the Praying with the Gospel series. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about Psalm 28. And really kind of what I focused on in this passage is, a lot of the Psalms are kind of long and it seems like they wander all over the place. And so just a lot of them seem just kind of random where it hops from like this to this to this to this. And it's kind of like, what are we even really getting at here? Um, and so I spent a little bit of time in the book talking about just looking at the bookends of a psalm, and so seeing, is there any sort of correlation between the beginning and the end? And I feel like those are really easy points to latch onto and say, okay, what's going on here? What's going on here? Is there any, how do those work together? And it can kind of give you a heart for what is this psalm getting at. So then you can try to see how does it develop through. So maybe they match, or maybe they're mirrors of each other or opposites of each other, and you can kind of see what here in the middle is that progression from one side to the other. What's kind of the heart or the message of this by looking at how those two sides interrelate to each other. And so that's certainly what happened here in Psalm 28. The first part is David lamenting that he doesn't feel God's presence, and he feels like God is deaf to him, not hearing his prayers, and kind of reasons that, like, if you're not hearing my prayers, you're not speaking to me. Those things kind of go hand in hand. That God's being deaf and mute with him. And then in the end, you see David rejoicing in God as a shepherd, which is very personal sort of language that, like, I feel God's presence and I feel protected by him, and all of those things that go along with the intimacy of that shepherd relationship. And so it makes kind of those bookends. We've got on the one side this feeling that God can't hear him and isn't speaking to him, and on the other it's this really intimate, protective relationship that goes together. And so then you can kind of follow through the psalm and see that progression of David, starting out here, ending up here, and how do we get in between. So it's just a really cool progression that's in there, and I track that a little bit as we go through that psalm, and some reflection on that in terms of, how often do we feel like God's not hearing us? How often do we feel like we're not hearing from God? And how we can apply that same sort of thing to our life of going from that, I don't feel like I'm hearing from God or that God's hearing me, and how do we get to that moment where we feel like God has that intimacy with us and we have that intimacy with him? So that's Psalm 28. I hope it was a blessing. Thanks, everyone.